Good morning. My name is Gary, DenverGuitarOrchestra.com. That's where you want to go to pick up the sheet music for today. Today we will be working on, let me go post our link over there while I'm chatting. Today we will be, hold on, get the link up, copy the link. Today we are working on Three Blind Mice. That's the last song in book one. Right, through the more we get together, almost the last song in book two, and then we're going to toss in Malagueña for release today, or at least chat about it. I don't know if we're actually going to play them all the way through or not. Probably. So let's probably get that done today. Let me put this down and fix the link. Shift. So the Denver Guitar Orchestra. It's not Denver specific. Follows a really a 4-book process. Book one is your foundational stuff. That's the one where you learn to play fingerstyle musics. Book two is where you develop all of the rest of the tools that don't show up in book one because they're too scary. And then book three is opportunity to practice all of those skills on real legit songs. So the more we get together, not that the more we get together isn't a legit song, it's just not as legit as Danny Boy or something like that. So, or For Elise, for example. And so, and then book four, of course, is all just, whatever it is. And so sometimes they're easy, sometimes they're painfully difficult. Whatever chords there are in them, that's what we play. And so, yeah. So 4-book process, and during the daytime here in these lessons, we work on book 1, 2, and 3. And then on Thursday nights, because that music takes so much longer to get together, we work on book 4 songs. Also on Thursday night, we've added in a super secret non-tabbed DGO Mysteries song. And this week we're playing a very lovely tune. And so hopefully everybody's having a chance to dig into that at the house and figure out what the heck is all that's about. Let's see what else is going on today. Let me put in our website here. DenverGuitarOrchestra.com. Let's see, DenverGuitarOrchestra.com. And I'm going to put that on my logo, DenverGuitarOrchestra.com. I hit tweet, and these days it puts my face and the logo up there, which is kind of cute. And then I'm going to close that down. I don't want to see what's going on Twitter. And let's see who else is here. Elizabeth made it in. She says the sound looks good. Welcome in from northern Colorado. Vic is in. Sound is good. He's in from cloudy Eugene, Oregon. And usually when people are a little slow to get here, that's okay, because they probably feel like Three Blind Mice. They got it handled. So let's run into Three Blind Mice. Three Blind Mice, oddly enough, is a frustratingly difficult song. And this arrangement is purposefully so. In other words, I wanted one. If you're going to be dealing with your G chord, you might as well be dealing with your G chord. And so let's talk about a handful of things on here. First of all, if you're finishing up, if you've been with me as a new player, Three Blind Mice is when we make our final decisions about whether it would be smart for you to run through the book one more time. For most people, it's a very kind of personal decision about, hey, I think I understand what's in the book, I'm ready to move on, or I think I understand what's in the book, but I want to go through and double check. And so I don't push it one way or the other. I do know that people feel like, okay, we did one book, we're supposed to do the next one, and that's not the right way to think in music at all. I think there's always something gained by going back and double checking basics. And I also think that we rush too much. As if you are a 7-year-old, you can rush. If you are 70 years old, maybe a little less rushing would be a good idea, right? And we feel like we always have to go to the next thing, and even if we don't necessarily have a good handle on the last thing. And so be patient with yourself. Let it come to you at whatever speed it comes to you. And That's what I think. Evelyn made it in. Good morning, Evelyn. 69 and sunny in Cuenca, Ecuador. Was distracted last week with the 3 full day online watercolor conference. How exciting! That would be super fun. I did a little watercolor in high school. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Never went back. Never touched it again. But I adore it. I follow one young lady on YouTube who's an oil painter, and probably because she's cute as a bug's ear is probably why I follow her. But really a fine painter. She does a lot of water, and it's amazing to me how painters some random brush strokes, suddenly it looks like something. It's just truly wonderful. So yeah, good for you, Evelyn. But I'd take the weekend off to watercolor instead of playing guitar. All right, so 3 blind mice. A big thing here for those of you in book 1 is the G chord, 5 strings up, 2nd fret, and then 6 strings up, 3rd fret, and then unfortunately 1 string up, 3rd fret. All right. Good morning, Pauline. 53 and cloudy. Rain is expected. I don't know what's going on in California. So the weather's gone wild. It's reasonable. Glad you made it in, Pauline. So here's your G chord. Okay, beautiful. I was watching a comedy show extravaganza type thing out of San Francisco over the weekend, and they had several people doing music comedy, and I was amazed at how often the G chord's coming up, right? And then I shouldn't be surprised. Now they often have a capo on here, but the G chord was sort of in every single song. And then my favorite was this kid was playing his D chord and then wrapping his thumb way around the top of this. And the reason that you do that, if the neck is a little skinnier, you can hold these 2 chords down, or these 2 strings down. So now your E becomes an F sharp, which is in a D chord. And I assume that he's not holding down the 2nd string, maybe just the top string. This, and then holding this down. So you get a fuller D chord. But it's absolutely look ridiculous, and it's not worth it. Just don't play that top string, and you don't have to do that goofy thing. Plus, on a classical guitar, it just really doesn't work. If you have a skinny necked guitar, you do it. That's on electric guitars they'll do that, but for grown-ups, we don't need to do that. You just don't hit that string, and you'll be fine. All right, G chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice. See how they run, see how they run. They all went after the farmer's wife. She cut off their tails with a carving knife. Have you ever seen such a sight in life as 3 blind mice? And again, when you're warming up, find your chord, do all of your systems with your right hand. So 1 would be strumming down, 3 blind mice. And when we're holding all 6 strings, we get to use all 6 strings, which is nice. And then, of course, sometimes plucking the lower strings. 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice. Sometimes plucking the upper strings. 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice. Sometimes upper strings with these fingers, lower string with this finger, with your thumb. 3 blind mice. That usually sounds the best. See how they run, see how they run. And then, of course, you're thinking arpeggios all the time, especially those of you guys who like to sing. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice. Or faster. 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice. See how they run, see how they run. All went after the farmer's wife. She cut off their tails with a carving knife. Have you ever seen such a sight in your life as 3 blind mice? So all of those things, just warming up the right hand. Okay, by the end of book one, you're probably reading tablature just fine. And so let's go through and play the melody. If you're not, that's definitely a sign. If you're like, man, I'm still really struggling with the fact that they're upside down, or that I'm holding one string and hitting a completely other string over here, when you're going to do that some no matter what. But if it's a major issue, repeat book one. That just means that you're still in that learning phase. Perfectly fine. I've had lots and lots of people take book one multiple times. Because it's all new information to you, right? Let's play it, just the melody one time through. 1, 2, 3, 4. O, 2, O, O, 2, O, 3, 1, 1, O, 3, 1, 1, O, 3, 3, 3, 2, O, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, O, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, O, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 1, O, 2, O. Yeah. And Arlo's mentioning, good morning, Arlo, by the way. When you're, he's saying, you know what, I just put my thumb on that top string because you're holding down a G note, which means your G is going to be rooted really nicely no matter what. And since Arlo wandered in, we got to pay homage to the bar chord. You remember last, in book one, there's your E chord, leaving your index finger open for a bar. And then last week in level 2, we started a skip to Malou. There's your F chord, and then here on 3, on same shape on 3, it's a G chord. And then you get another texture to it. 3 blind mice. 3 blind mice. See how they run. See how they run. They all went after the farmer's wife. She cut off their tails with a carving knife. Have you ever seen such a sight in your life as 3 blind mice? Right? So just, again, a different texture. When you use your bar chord with your E shape in front of it, you can get a kind of a dirtier sound to it, like, right? Yours may sound like that. Sort of gives you another texture, another way of playing the music. And I always feel like, you know what? Most of the time, I want it to sound soft and beautiful and pretty. I want it to sound like a ballad of some sort, but not always. Sometimes you want to make it a little more gadgety or be a little bit more in control of the overall sound of your instrument, and but that's what bar chords help you with, instead of, which is what we usually want to sound, where you can get. All I'm doing is just, I'm not even lifting up, I'm just loosening my hand a little bit. Gives you a little bit dark, a little bit less. Well, just I don't know, a dirtier sound. Is that the best way to put it? Something a little more rugged. When you do this chord, if you take these off, these middle ones keep ringing because you never touched them. So you're not entirely in control of the sound. And then, of course, the other G chord we talk about a lot is putting 2 fingers on strings 1 and 2, and then those 2 stay the same. Get a little bit more punch up here on that upper end. Vic says, I can finally do bar chords, sketchy and not fast. My fingers will press the string. So the day that you are actually lay your F shape onto the fretboard, and you do that, and sound comes out of all strings, that's the day that you get to walk down to your neighborhood watering hole and have a Manhattan, because you have officially arrived at sophistication. Right? And taking a lot of, little kids, the day they do bar chords, I'm like, okay, we got to go down and have a Manhattan. And you'll be drinking a Darth Vader. No, but being the day that happens, most of the time when you're working on bar chords, you get a lot of that, okay? And that's going to happen, okay? And then one day it just gets tied up, or all of them come out, and doesn't that sound nice? That's an A chord, which is beautiful. And you can see why you're a guitar player, you want to do that for the rest of your life, right? And that's when you get good at bar chords, then you start thinking, I should probably get an electric guitar. You shouldn't, because it's the dark side of guitar. But yeah, finally reaching that day when a bar chord comes out it's a big day for you. All right, final thing to talk about today here, and this is really not a book 3. This is not a song that I really recommend anybody play Tough Axe. It is here, but there is one specific thought process that goes into this Tough Axe piece, and that is you really, really, really need to use your alternate D shape. So you really need to have your middle finger, ring finger, and pinky finger here. G shape. Did I say D? G shape. You're almost going to have to do this because this finger is in charge of a melody note right here, and it's also going to be in charge of a melody note over here, and there's just not any other way to pull it off successfully without doing this weird G shape. And so it's just one of those things where you're going to be working on rocking your hand here just a little bit, never letting go of your middle and ring finger. They're never going to move on this, but in order to get the melody shapes, you're going to be doing a little bit of this, okay? So let's go through it one time, just see how we do. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so the takeaway from that is these two guys never ever let up from their strings, which means that allows these two notes to ring through the entire thing. That sets this really nice bass foundation of that sound, just continuously ringing through the whole piece. Really does a great job. If you play with a bass player, that's their job, is to hit those dark notes and just keep those rolling through, creating the neighborhood where the rest of your fingers will be building up the melody and the song, and you have this nice undercurrent of just the chord hanging out down there. And so the takeaway from that practice session on Three Blind Mice is anchor those two, never let them up. Everything else is going to be done either with opens or with a pinky, or with your index finger. Sometimes it's here. 1, 2, do I have it on the right string? Yeah, right there. Or over here sometimes. Okay. So the idea is to anchor your hand and then just make minor modifications using your index and your pinky to get the sound out. This is one of the chords that you have to have at that business of holding part of the chord and then using your fingers for the rest of the chord. It can be a little bit taxing, right? And so this again is not my favorite arrangement in the book. If I had my druthers, I would put it in a different key, but we needed one song for the key of G, and I tried the others in key of G. None of them really spoke to me. And so this one, the technique is actually important. Anchor your chord, use your other fingers to play melody. And so there you go. That's 3 blind mice. That's not really a book 1 skill, by the way. That is definitely a book 2 skill. Okay, so as you're finishing up book 1, a couple of you here are doing that. I want to take just a moment to talk about the composer's blank on, and that's not sitting on the website. It's part of the actual book. And so if you haven't gotten the actual book 1, you might want to send me an email. I do send that out to students for free if you want it. But the next thought in your head is, hey, I have learned how to play an A chord, a D chord, an E chord, and a G chord. I see people on when I want to say, I almost said American Bandstand, whatever talent show is on these days, and they don't seem to know really how to play guitar. I watch their hands; they're not really doing much. But remember, if you're a singer, you don't have to know how to run this whole thing. The one thing that I do think is important is that if you were put the phrase ADE in your head, ADE, ADE, so lemonade, right? You can make music, you could write songs, and for some of you that was a not a goal in your head at the moment. But as you become a more competent musician, you are going to want to. You're going to spend more. There's going to come a day when you're like, I don't know why I'm playing everybody else's music. I should make some on my own and see how it goes. And your first 900 attempts are pretty miserable, but in those 900, there'll be 6 or 7 you're really proud of. And well, if you're like me, I don't know. I wrote, I don't know how many thousands of songs, and I have about 6 that are pretty good. ADE. This is an A, and this is a D, and this is an E. Go back to A. And then you make them any length that you want. You can stay on a chord or move on along to write a song. So ADE is one of those sort of intro level, book 1. Hey, let's get started. Hey, Warren, welcome in. Glad you're here. The reason you write songs is so you can understand music theory, and the reason once you understand music theory, you understand all music. And so, so you take A, D, and E. That's where we start on guitar, right? That's a song, right? You don't know what song it is, but you know it's a song for sure. A, D, E, A. And so when you begin to start putting music together, then the music theory, the secrets of music start to reveal themselves. And once you're able to do that, music is really in your control. And like today when we do for Elise, those chords are not surprising. Beethoven knew this stuff too, and he used it fully to his advantage, often simplifying chord structures in some way to create some additional power in his music. And I would say that's something you also want to be getting where you're kind of comfortable with. The other matchup is DGA. Degas, DGA, Degas. Hey, we'll remember that. So lemonade and Degas. Okay, think of the painter Degas, DGA. If I start with the D chord, D, 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 go to G, 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 wrap it up on A, and back home to D. And this is the cowboy. This sounds more cowboy-ish, right? D, G, A, D. And so you would write about a pickup truck or your lost love or whatever cowboys write about these days. So just remember lemonade and the painter Degas, ADE and DGA, those go together quite lovely to create some tunes. Bigger takeaway from that. That's in and of itself a book 1 idea is, hey, we're going to write some songs. And people are like, I don't want to write songs. Sooner or later, you might want to. What the real takeaway is 1, 4, 5. That's what goes on here. So if I put A here, A, B, C, D and E, A, D, E, those chords go together. And that's called 1-4-5 system. Every single folk music player on the planet is really, really comfortable with 1-4-5. It's just that way you can then transpose into all your guitar-friendly keys pretty quickly. A, D, and E, and that's why a lot of times when you see pop tunes and you're like, oh, I really like that song, and then you sit down to study it, you find out it's not that complex because it was written by somebody who's had a very loose grasp on songwriting in the first place. So A, D, and E. That's not true with when we're playing Beethoven. He knew pretty much how to write a tune. A, D, and E. But if I put D here, D, E, F, G, and A, Degas, right? D, G, A are right there. And so I think those two, that little bit of music theory there goes a long way. At the end of the day, I think even as guitar players, you need to memorize where the notes are on a piano. There's only 11 notes. That's it. That's the entire earth. Entire Western music is built off of 11 notes. So you have to memorize your arrangements on a piano. And then I think this 1-4-5 business is really, really critical to your long-term understanding of how music works. And I would say the only thing that ultimately we add into this is thinking about the 6 minor. So if I'm in D, and I play that, and then I go to the 6 minor, see how nice it sounds with that? Then I can go to G, come back to A or A7, and back to D. And you end up with some really, really pretty tunes that way by adding in the 6 minor. So that's hanging out over here. And in the case of D, it's a B minor hanging out over there. So that gets a little messier. So I like to keep it simple. When you first start, you're going to write 3-chord songs. You're going to write A, D, and E, or you're going to write D, G, and A. And you're just going to just go around there and just imagine what the song is about. I don't know, right? About something, and it's up to you to figure that out. Okay? And you don't have to put words with it. You can absolutely do some sort of and there's that. So that's the one other thing that's actually in the book. You guys don't get that as just dropping the stuff off the website, which is fine. You don't necessarily need a piece of paper to remind you of that if you'll just memorize Degas. And then the last thing in the book, I do have a Degas. And then the last thing in the book, I do have a stretch piece in there, and it's from level 3, and it's called All Through the Night. And you guys have played this with me a couple of times already. But the nice part about All Through the Night is if you are finishing up book 1, you can play All Through the Night. And so if you want to go grab that off the sheet music page of the website, I want to just play it through one time just so you hear how beautiful it is. And so it's just the chords that I've learned in level 1. Whoops. So as a book 1 player, you can play that, right? And so it's got all the chords you already know. It has a melody line that you can play quite readily. There's nothing in book 1. There's nothing new that you haven't already learned in book 1. And then, of course, when you put that together, the tough acts, it is a really beautiful tune. And so it's actually a level 3 song. Or a book 3 song, but you can play it once you have completed book 1 and actually are understanding pretty well what you're doing. All right, that's our song for the week for book 1. 3 Blind Mice. We'll turn it into something each day and turn it into be taking the toolbox that's associated with that and really turning it into something nice. Now, the next one up on our list is The More We Get Together, right? Is that what we're doing today? I can never remember what I'm doing from minute to minute. I don't know if any of you guys have Corona brain, but I definitely have settled in I'm getting pretty comfortable with just owning it. The More We Get Together. 2 chords, G chord. The more we get together, to D chord, gather together. The more we get together, the happier we'll be. Okay, so the chords here, right? Big chord here, and then kind of changing everybody out to get from this one to this one. And just remember, when you hit the D chord, don't hit this top string. It will make you sad. Everything else, you can hit all the strings. Let's sing it through one time. Then 3, right? So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Try that. The more we get together, the more we get together, the happier we'll be. Because your friends are my friends, and my friends are your friends. The more we get together, the happier we'll be. One more time. What's the next one? The more we dance together. The more we dance together, the more we dance together, the happier we'll be. 'Cause your friends are my friends, and my friends are your friends. The more we get together, the happier we'll be. Don't talk about waltz time a ton. It comes up lots, and it's not any more necessarily sophisticated than 4/4 time, but it does sound nice with waltz time. Remember, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So having something heavier, usually the root note of the chord, G, and then if you go to the D. If you have 2 chords in a row, it's often a great idea to go G and then hit the string next to it, and then back. G, D, D. And so what you're having there is that boom pa pa sound, pa 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 pa. If you go to a German pub in Munich, you're undoubtedly a tourist German pub. They're going to have accordions in there. They're going to be playing waltzes, pa 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 pa. And so that first beat is pretty heavy, and then the next 2 beats are a little bit lighter. A little different feeling than in 4/4 time, which is 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 is still heavy, but 3 is also a little heavier. And so just when you see a 3/4, I always think I'm gonna do Oompa waltz on that. It goes almost always works, especially on a gadgety song like this. Next melody. I see 1s, I see 3s, I see 2s, I see nothing else. Looks like we can play it in first position, right? Let's give it a try. 1, 2. duet partner, we'll drop in the G chord there at the end, right? I should probably just put that on that would be a good learning activity, huh? Just let's move that up onto the melody line as well. All right, so there's your melody. Nothing too super fancy there, right? Just ones and twos and threes. It's fun to play. Okay. I'll take a moment to point out on the arpeggio line. I should have done this a minute ago. I've got reverse arpeggios. I think of them as backwards because I always like thumb, index, middle, ring. That's where I live my life with arpeggios. But this one I wrote it out backwards, and it's gonna be middle, index, thumb, middle, index, thumb, and then it's just another pattern for you to begin working. Again, arpeggios are really a book 3 thing. That's where I focus in on pretty seriously, and not necessarily even in the book, but when I'm working with students or when we're getting people ready for orchestra. Boy, being able to do this is pretty important. And if you do this, then the more we get to, the more we get together, the more we get together, the happier we'll be. Now, it doesn't sound necessarily as good or as normal or as expected as that, but it is something that is a skill that works. It gives you a little different texture when you're going middle, index, thumb, or even ring, middle, index, thumb, ring, middle, index, thumb, ring, middle, index, thumb, to get you in a situation where, hey, sometimes we'll go this way, sometimes we'll go this way, sometimes we'll pluck outsides and then insides. The more we get together, the more we get together, the happier we'll be. So that's outsides and insides. You could also do odds and evens. So that's thumb and middle, and then ring and index and ring. The more we get together, the more we get together, the happier we'll be. So try all that stuff, right? You saw me slowing way down because I'm like, oh, come on, man. I've been working a ton of arpeggios this weekend on different things, and they are. Problem with arpeggios, your hand gets, we're like, okay, is this what we're doing? We'll do it that way. Okay, that sounds good. And then you're like, okay, now here's a new song. We're going to do it a different way. And they're like, wait a minute, we don't like the new idea. We prefer the old way of doing things. All right, let's play the tough acts here. 2 times through. See how it comes out. 1, 2. I'm sorry, 2 beat counting. 1, 2. Top. peaceful, right? Almost as if it's a ballad, right? Sometimes we sing about what is it? Hotel California, and sometimes we sing about getting together. That's the ballad style. You might also go back through when you have a minute and try a plucking technique, which is, I think, never a bad idea when you're just messing around with technique, to try all of the techniques. Whoops, let me get my finger on the melody note. So I do think that that's another way to bring in some texture. And you want to be able to master all those. Doesn't matter the song, just matters all of those different techniques. All right, the more we get together, we'll move on. I just got a weird sign. I had a security report. And I thought, oh, am I being hacked? Am I in the process of being hacked right at this moment? I saw 60 Minutes over the weekend, and they said, yeah, the Chinese government has already hacked you. Don't worry. They have all of your information already. And you're like, oh. Okay, well, I guess there's no point in me worrying about it anymore. All right, next up. Last week we talked, and we will probably mess around with Malagueña quite a bit over the week. And again, it's one of these things where Malagueña is not meant as it is not meant for a song where you play it top to bottom. It's meant for you to take certain techniques away from it and then see how it works out for you in your life. And I'm busy looking for my Malagueña. I originally have it in book 4. Might have been originally in book 4. There it is. You want to take each of these sections as an idea. On Friday, we'll probably come up with an agreement as to what sections. But for the week, be working on them I think there's 5 sections in here. So the first section, of course, you're holding an E chord and you're doing 2, 2, 1, O. Switch to A minor. I'm sorry. Index. I think probably, even though picking it is hard, I do think it's sort of this nice intersection between kind of an arpeggio, but it's a moving arpeggio in that you're going to be changing your fingering out as you go along, plus creating a nice melody in there based on your adjustments on the fingering. But you'll see everything's a pattern in there. There's no surprises in there. It's just talking your fingers into doing it. And I do think if you really, really want to impress people, get where you can do this super fast. Even that's not very fast. You'll see that the time signature is 140. Right, and so that you might just work on those 2 measures alone, right? So I'm not doing that well. Maybe do my thumb in. Well, you got to use all 4 fingers, it seems to me. And you're going to have that ring playing that. Or play it slow. Who cares? A minor is the harder part of it because you have to move your fingers. And it's going to be. So those 2 measures, I'd work on those probably. Good on A minor on that. I'm like, why is that not sounding right? putting it up here on 5 for some reason. Just it comes up here. Your ring finger is going to be on the 4th string, not the 5th string. So again, I'm going to spend a little bit of time working on this section. And then you go back to your E. This is the part that's fun. You can either do, which is probably how I would do it, or you can do, right? Either of those are possibilities, depending on how aggressive and how Spanish you're feeling at any given moment. Next section, again, working on this by itself, grabbing the A minor. With this, the 3s and the 0s, you really can't grab a full F chord because you got to leave that bottom open. And then grab your E chord here at the end of 13. And you repeat it. That section is more playable, I think, than the intro section. And again, that one, I don't know, that one's got a much sadder feeling because it's in minor, has a minor feeling to it. I would probably try to play that section slower than that first section. Then at 18, this is the very characteristic Malagueña sound. I know over the years of teaching this thing, when a student decides, yep, I'm going to tackle this one, that is the section that's the hardest because you probably getting your middle and pinky finger to cooperate up on that top string and 6th and 5th string. It will be the more challenging technically of anything on this piece. Then when you go to measure 20, you got 032 as your bass line. So that again is a the nice part about that is you get a chance to practice descending and ascending and descending bass lines, which we don't get to spend. It's a very cowboy-ish way of playing, or in this case it starts at 0. You'll hear that in a lot of cowboy music. I don't spend that much time working on it, but it is super cool. Oh, thanks, Warren. Warren's like, oh God, that'll change, Warren, the more time you spend around me. Now, next section, measure 27. Let's just take our peaceful. It's a different section. It's very similar in nature to that first section, but there are different chords in here. So again, pinky on 4. 2, and then 030, 2, 3, 2, 3, and then nice 4. Find your texture. Probably with all these E chords wrapping up each section, you might want to do different ones, right? One time, 4, 4. All of these types of things. Find a fun way to make each E chord wrapping up a little bit differently. Then you will create the sense that all of these sections are indeed different. And so we get through that. Those that's I would say from really from 18 to 32 there is really a very good workout with getting your left hand committing to 4s with pinky, 3s with ring, 2s with your middle finger, and then making sure that you're on these upper strings. They're really challenging. I find them very challenging to play. And then 33, of course, let's talk about going into your bar chord. Vic was celebrating the fact that she was having bar chords come out of her instrument, and so if we take the A minor shape, and I will probably just use my other fingers, leaving my thumb, my index finger available. Here's the A minor. And then you go up to the G chord, move your shape up to each string, down to F, back to E. That's sort of those two measures there, 33 and 34, are really just transitional to get you to these giant chords at the end of the song. Okay, and then at 35, you really do want to honor that rest. Go to an E. F chord. And slide up to your G. You might use that as an introduction to the song. I have it at the end, but it can just as easily fit as an introductory note. And with those rests there, you know how I always say this: don't do that. Don't do the exact thing I was just doing. That's how you're supposed to shut down a classical guitar or an acoustic guitar generally. Palm up over the bridge. Right, that's how you're supposed to do it. But on a dramatic Spanish song like this, you may want to actually do that. F. Okay, so one more of that sort of percussive feeling. We've talked about it in a couple of level 2 songs. I'm not a huge fan, but you can see the allure of knocking that out. All right, how are we doing on time? We're way over. For Elise will happen tomorrow. You start talking about Spanish guitar and time magically disappears. So tomorrow we'll move For Elise over to that. We'll dig into For Elise. So tomorrow will be Three Blind Mice, This Old Man, Minstrel Boy, Last Rose of Summer. Shoot, we're gonna have to move. We'll probably move. We'll move For Elise to Wednesday. That's what we'll do. So that gives you a couple more days to dig into that. Tomorrow we have 4 songs already: Three Blind Mice, This Old Man, Minstrel Boy, Last Rose of Summer. Tomorrow will be a very Celtic day for us with Minstrel Boy and Last Rose of Summer on the same agenda. And then on Wednesday I'll move For Elise down to Wednesday. That'll give us Three Blind Mice, Tom Dooley, Santa Lucia, and For Elise. That'll be a nice day. Those are all beautiful. So I hope you're having a great day. Hope the weather wherever you are is good. Remember, when you log in, tell me where you're from and what the weather is like, and we will celebrate your if you're up in the Northeast right now, you're getting destroyed by a nor'easter, which is not very good. But I guess you know that happens when you live in the Northeast. And the Roanoke colony didn't disappear on accident, peeps. And so I will see all of you tomorrow. And some of you are taking harmonica or ukulele in the next hour. I'll see you a little later on. Have a wonderful day. Loving your breakdown of this song. Well, with Malagueña, right? If everybody plays it differently, but it all has basically the same pieces and parts, that's how we do it. Break it down, figure out what's going to work in each section, and then you find out. The nice part about that particular style of studying a song is that will take you into all your other songs. You break it down into these weird sections. Here's a section, work on that. And we break it down another section, work on this. The thing we have a tendency to do, and I did it forever, was just play songs top to bottom, play it again top to bottom, and then go on to the next song. That is extremely inefficient way to practice. And the nice part is this studying it, breaking it down section by section is what you should be doing on every song, right? All right, let's see. Warren, good to see you, bud. See you tomorrow. Oh, actually, I think you're coming to Harmonica as well, huh? And then Vic, keep at the bar chords. Yeah, Arlo is our bar chord guru, and he knows every single thing about bar chords, and he's committed. And I think because of him, I absolutely agree with him that. And we start with the E chord, right? Start with your E, then slide it up to an F, slide it up to a G, and slide it up 2 more to an A. And man, oh man, you got a whole lot of power in just one shape. So, all right, guys, got to unplug. I got to run. Get ready for harmonica class, and I will see you guys either tomorrow or later today. Have a great one.